All right. Hi, Lisa McWhinnie Inc. So this is round two of that video. So I tried to film this about 2 minutes ago. So I have a friend who's severely arachnophobic, and I was at his place over the weekend, and I was in his bedroom, and in his bedroom on his dresser was a plastic garbage can that had like white fluffy stuff in it. And when I walked by, like I don't know how many times I'd walked by it, but I walked by and noticed that there was like what appeared to be no, there was a spider about this big sitting on top of the white cottony stuff. And I stopped and I was like, is that real? But I was like, I'm not sure. So I went and I knew my friend would fucking freak out if he saw this spider sitting there. So I went and got a soft cloth or something. I can't remember what it was. And I gently picked up the spider and a little bit of the cotton that was uh, with it. I didn't quite mean to do that, but I managed to get a little bit of the cotton and I put it in a Freshco bag, you know, one of those green cloth, like kind of recycled green cloths that the grocery stores in Canada are using. And I tied it up and I put it in a bag and I was getting ready to leave. So I took it with me and I brought it home. And anyway, so I put it, I had a look at it and it seemed to have like eyes that were possibly like painted on it, two white eyes. And I turned it over and it had like, it looked like cotton on the underneath of it. So like a white, fluffy, as if it was taxidermied possibly. Or I don't know. I wasn't quite sure whether this spider was real or not because I'm finding that if animal or creatures are very frightened, they may, put themselves into a coma. If they're injured, they may put themselves into a coma. Because I'm finding the instincts I'm getting is that when a creature or a human passes over properly, their the their bowels and everything will let go, or excrement, not necessarily like feces, but just uh, like bodily fluids will drain out of them, and that's when an entity is passed entirely off the planet. And so anyway, where was I going with that? Where was I going with that? I can't. Oh, whether it had been taxidermied. Anyway. So I got it home and I was wondering what to do with this thing, and so I put it in the garbage and then I started to put other things on top of it because I was like freaking out that this thing was real, or like, and I thought, what if my friend knew it was or saw it there, and when he finds out it's missing, he's gonna have a meltdown because he's like, where the fuck did that spider go? And he could have a heart attack or like a psychotic break because he's already had like break-ins and a lot of chaos in his place. He's been mentally tortured by someone, we're not quite sure, trying to catch them on video, and it reported to the police whole bit. So anyway, so I was like, I called him and I said, I brought it home with me, and he was like, thank you. But he had also seen another one, I don't know how big, but it had like come down off of his door and it was hanging in his doorway, and it just hung there, which is very strange behavior for a spider, especially when like a large human or some sort of what would be a natural enemy to it would come along. It would probably keep going down or go back up or something. It probably wouldn't just sit there. My feeling that a regular spider wouldn't do that. And he went away and came back and went away and it was still there. And then he said something to it, and I think it went away at that point. And so now I'm thinking, was there more than one of those things in his house? I mean, no wonder he's having a lot of problems. So I get this thing home and I put it in the garbage, and oh my God, like the mental chaos. I woke up at about midnight this morning. So it's Monday, June the 29th today. And I woke up about midnight and I had a really hard time. Like I couldn't think straight. Simple things. I couldn't like manage simple activities. Um, Deciding on showering and clothing was very difficult. So I forced myself just to do what I would always do. I limited my wardrobe to 4 colors, which makes it very easy. So I thought about the weather because that's what I decide. It's cool in the morning, but it gets warmer. So I dress in layers so I can take layers off. So I did that and I stuck with basically black and white. So I got all dressed anyway, and I'm like having like a like I'm having a really hard time focusing, and I'm wondering whether this spider is the cause of it. And the reason I'm saying that is because my brother bought me, and my brother passed about 10 months ago, and I didn't know, and I'm having a really difficult time with it. But my brother bought me the Stephen King book, It, and they made it into a movie, and it's about this thick, and it's like 1,000 pages and very thin pages, like a Bible, so it was very small print. And I read the whole thing, and I don't remember a lot of it. I remember, the clown was obviously in it that was coming out of the sewers, and, there was a group of, like, then children, and then it disappeared for a while and then resurfaced, and the book goes back and forth between childhood memories and current day conversations that these now adults are having. And eventually they hunt down this creature that's, doing all these killings and things. And I didn't see the movie, but the description that Stephen King gave it in the book, it was just an enormous spider. And I was like so disappointed because I was like, I read 1,000 pages, and I was actually upset with Stephen King because I was like, that was the best you could do? 1,000 pages, and the best you could come up with was an enormous spider. Because I mean, in the book, I'm imagining some like creature that like is beyond describable. It would be so terrifying. So when I read it, and it basically resembled in my head the picture I had, an enormous spider, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. That's it? So anyway, so the reason I'm saying that is because I find there's a lot of psychics on the planet, that have been very much ignored, because I shouldn't say ignored, but um, we didn't necessarily know what to do with the information that the psychics were telling us. So the reason I'm saying that is because when I came home from my walk, I went for a walk after I had a shower and dressed about 5:45 this morning, somewhere in that department. Again, having a lot of problems deciding where to go. And I'm walking along the sidewalk, and there's massive amounts of ants all over the sidewalk, like in different areas. And I'm getting creeped out because I'm like, is the world ending? Like, I've never seen like massive amounts of insects just appear overnight. And it was like in different areas along my path. And I ended up walking basically a couple blocks and coming back, and I took the bag that the spider was in, and something kind of took over me, and it was a spirit that I've been struggling with, a negative spirit that I've been struggling with. And anyway, I and the spirit somehow managed to uh, like crush the bag just ever so gently, not like squish the spider, but ever so gently. And then I put it back in the bag, tied the bag, and then put the bag upside down in another bag and tied that bag, and then put it in our garbage room. There's a chute, but I just put it on the floor. So that's when and at some point, I can't remember exactly, but I went back in to see if it was still there, because I told the authorities about, the fact that someone, or this spider, had been planted in my friend's apartment. And I was basically saying, because that can bring about a heart attack or like a psychotic break. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not funny, So he said it was a friend. Um, and I was thinking, well, that friend may not like come up and stab you in the heart, but I would say that friend doesn't care about your well-being and doesn't care if you die or not. So anyway, now fast forward, what time is it now? That was at like 6. I didn't talk to him then, but I kind of like crushed the bag slightly, and now it's 8:29 on June 29th, 2026 p.m. And it was like 6 a.m. when I went for that walk and saw all those insects. And at some point I had a nap, and I woke up from it, and like I felt like death warmed over, like something very bad happened to me in the dream state. So I went back to the garbage chute at some point, and the bag was gone. So somebody put it down the chute, or someone took it. I don't know, but the bag was gone. And I was like, maybe I should have kept it to show the authorities. And did I mention that I turned it over and it had like a cotton inside, and it looked like it might have been taxidermied? Anyway, so my instincts are saying that I broke the spider's leg, and nor and I may have turned it upside down because I put it like upside down in the bag and then put the bag on top. So birds, if you turn them upside down, they become quite like confused. Like they don't understand quite where they are. So now my gut is saying that the spider was upside down in the bag and may not have understood like where it was or what was happening. And I feel like um, that through the process of someone putting it down the chute or maybe crushing it in a canister or something, I feel like the spider expired, like it left the plant, like it expired properly. And so the reason I'm telling you that is because it's 8:29 now, and I feel an enormous lift. Like Guelph has been, I can't explain it. Like, in fact, the whole planet seems to have been quite evil in the last couple years. And I feel like everybody's been walking on eggshells and not really like understanding what was happening. And I feel an enormous lift now in energy. Now I haven't been out, so I'm not really sure, but I feel an enormous lift. So I'm feeling that this spider, like a lot of people, and I've been there, that sometimes we feel like we've done so much wrong that there's no coming back from it. And I feel like this spider may have been sending out that energy and may have done a lot of, or caused a lot of chaos and wasn't really sure how to come back from that. And I feel like if other people had seen that spider in my friend's apartment and didn't really know what to do with it, didn't want to crush it, didn't want to kill it, he wasn't going to be able to do it because of his arachnophobia. And maybe because I didn't go in screaming and crush the thing, which may have caused, more chaos. I think because I treated it delicately. I think it was maybe confused at first because when I put it in the bag, it might have felt safe, contained. There was a little bit of cotton in with it that it had just been sitting on, so maybe it was unfamiliar, maybe it was just checking out its environment, and maybe it just wanted to be caught. I know there's a lot of um, uh, what are considered psychopaths or serial killers who get to the point that they start leaving too much evidence because, and maybe every everybody that's having trouble doing the right thing is maybe a little bit too psychic, and maybe they're in touch with um, evil spirits, or like evil spirits have invaded them. My biological father used to say that the voices I was hearing were demons, and at the time I wasn't really, you know, believing in that. I took it into consideration, but I didn't really believe what he was saying. And he's passed a long time ago, and his family were all psychic mediums, and he was a psychic medium, but I was adopted out. So I didn't grow up with that kind of psychic information. So I've been pretty shut down. But what I have done is stay sober. What I have done is kept with my routines. What I have done is try not to break the law because I'm deathly afraid of the authorities and getting caught for things. So I've tried to keep doing the right things. And so anyway, what I'm trying to say is that in another video, I admitted that I killed my cat, and I felt at that time that there might have been some dark forces involved then, but you can't really tell like I wouldn't say non-spiritual, but a community or a world that is more money orientated or science orientated. It's very difficult for people who maybe don't want to believe in dark entities, who don't want to believe in dark forces, who don't want to believe in ghosts, things like that. So it's hard to tell a society when you have like a mental break that yeah, the devil was talking to me, or an evil spirit invaded me, kind of thing. It's not a popular because they want to medicate you, and maybe that's to dull your psychic abilities, maybe because it's hard for people to um, do normal everyday things when they have a lot of psychic things going on. It's difficult for them to do routine things, get fed, dressed, go to work, things like that. It really hampers people's ability to do daily things and be on this planet. So recently I've been thinking that, um, that the family I grew up in was the right family, and it helped me complete my purpose. And one of my purposes was to choose men as a partner as opposed to a lesbian partner. And again, it's not a moral thing. It was more, I felt that, and I said this in another video, that if I was to be in a lesbian relationship, it would have been very similar to me handling my trauma with addictions to sex, drugs, shopping, alcohol. It would have been, for me, to choose a lesbian relationship would have been the same as drinking it away or drugging it away. And my only way of actually healing from the trauma was to work on having loving relationships with a partner. And for me, it's one partner. Okay. So, and I haven't really accomplished that so far, like it's sort of in a marriage situation, but I am loyal to one person, and it is a male. And to me, it doesn't really matter um, how he sort of feels about the situation, in the sense that I consider him my husband, and you know, whether he ever gets on board or whether we ever get on board together, you know, that's not really important to me. What's important to me is that in my heart, I'm committed to him, and only want what's best for him. And if that means someone else is better suited spiritually for him, that then as a loving person, I need to let him go do what he needs to do, right? And so, anyway, the point I'm trying to, what was my point? Um, the whatever this, for me, this spider has expired or passed or calmed something, but for me, the energy has changed, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but the reason I'm saying this is that some people, some entities, some governments, some religious organizations, some groups in general have a lot of power. And so this spider or this entity, I think, possibly I'm going to sound crazy, but I feel like this entity had a lot of control over a lot of people. And I just want to say that um, that in my life, not everyone is going to understand what I did or the decisions I make or what I've become or who I am or the mistakes I've made. But the fact is, some people will. And that's just a fact of life. If we haven't been through it, or if we haven't been through it, or know someone or love someone who has, it may not be in our ability to forgive and forget and move on and understand, but there will be some people who do forgive and forget and move on and understand. So I just want to extend that if anyone feels that over the last few years that they've been a darker version of themselves, as I was the night I took my cat's life, if they feel they've been a darker version of themselves and they've made some horrible mistakes that there's no coming back from, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, and I just encourage you to hang on. Just keep trying to do the best you can do on a daily basis, because if this entity was on the planet or in this area for quite some time, then there's a lot of people who will be in the same boat, including me. So, so yeah, give it some time, give it a few days. The atmosphere may lift. I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that um, I was guided by something to uh, injure the spider enough that perhaps it made the decision that it was okay to go. Maybe it had done some evaluating of its own life, and maybe it just didn't know how to come back from that. And maybe the people that followed its orders would have conversations with it in the mind, or even out loud, and maybe it came to realize that maybe it wasn't all that bad, or maybe there was some forgiveness, but maybe it decided to leave because, as some people have on the planet, because maybe it didn't, it would be better off somewhere else to practice its newfound uh, self love, I would think. And I read a book called Embraced by the Light by Betty Eadie, and she talks about this time, the evolution of the planet, and that a lot of people will, a lot of people and species will choose to leave um, because their spiritual positioning is better suited for this other planet or this other state of being or heaven, or because I think there's a space for all of us. There really is. And even if we pass, I've been thinking lately that if I passed, I would ask God for oblivion. I would ask God to just zap me out of existence because I don't want to think anymore. I don't want to feel anymore. I don't want to exist anymore. Just give me oblivion. And a lot of drug addicts want that from their drug, right? And so I was going to beg God, just zap me out of existence because I can't handle it. But energy can't be defeated, right? It can't be destroyed. So I feel like if God really thought that that's what I wanted and needed, that He could bleep me out of existence and I would exist in just this nothingness, this limbo. And then when I was ready and healed enough, I could ask to be bleeped back into existence again, or like in a physical form. Anyway, I feel like a loving God would meet us where we're at. And, I feel like this planet has been hell for a lot of people for a long time. And, you know, um, I'm hoping that if this spider was an entity that um, was having trouble figuring out where its place in the world was, possibly it's moved on to a better space, and maybe we can, as a planet, start to recognize that um, uh, higher beings, lower vibrational beings, um, good people, bad people, may not be what we think it is. Maybe it's not. Maybe there's no such thing as a good person or a bad person. Maybe there's no such thing as a good entity or a bad entity. Maybe we're all just doing the best we can with what we got. So, like I said, I feel a bit better. I called that friend who had the spider in his place, and he sounds a little brighter. He still didn't necessarily want to talk to me, but he sounds a bit brighter. So um, I just have to keep walking in faith that I found that with this person, this is the person I consider to be my partner. I found if I left him alone, if I extended my hand to him and left him alone long enough, he would come to his own best conclusions. And I have to trust and have faith that he answered the phone to let me know he's still alive and still breathing. And the best I can do is have faith, say a prayer. I ask the angels of mercy and the warring angels to pick him up and carry him and dust him off and carry him if necessary. Um, but I was really scared for him and a lot of people today. So yeah, I just want to put that out there for anyone who may be watching me or other people, and may feel that there's no coming back from things they've done. And I'm here to tell you that although it's been 11 years and people still uh, don't like me for what I did, and I don't like me for what I did some days. Um, but at the end of the day, I can't change it, and so people have extended me forgiveness. My partner, for example, looked at me after that and said, "Lisa, what you did was a terrible thing," and I said, "I know." And that was the most honest comment I got from anyone, is that he just straight out told me that what I did was terrible. Other people tried to extend forgiveness and then behind my back, had a hard time with it. And, I left a group of supportive women because basically the negativity that I brought to it with the death, with killing my cat, was too much for several of the group members uh, to to navigate whether I was a safe person or not a safe person anymore, which I understood. So the last few years, I've spent my time with more dangerous people who have done worse things because they were the people who could meet me where I was at and could handle the fact that I was dangerous because they're dangerous and they know how to protect themselves. And I know how to protect myself. And we all know we're a threat to one another, and we all know we can be depended on, but we know we can't be, So and basically the active addicts were the ones who met me where I was. And I've gained support from Eating at the Mission because um, I know I was, I wouldn't say more welcome, but just I kept to myself and I was there for food. I tried to mind my own business. I tried to stand up for wrongs when I saw them, and I tried just to do what I went there to do. I needed food. Basically, I needed food and I needed to be out in public because I'm an extrovert, and I didn't necessarily have money or belong at Tim Hortons, but the mission was where I needed to be, and I would eat my sweets and eat with the food that they offered and sit for an hour. Sometimes I would cry on the table. Sometimes I'd have a nap, on my arm on the table. And I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the people at the mission, including the staff who keeps the door open. As much as I think they're jerks a lot of the time, but they put up with a lot too. But so do we. And I just want to extend my deepest gratitude to the inmates at the jail, Vanier, the Southwest Center for Forensic Science, the inmates there, Homewood Health Center, the inmates there, and the people at the mission, Hope House, Chalmers Church, uh, the inmates there, the homeless people. Like you saved my fucking life. Just for being who you are and not judging me. Some people couldn't do that. Some people could not separate me from the crime. Couldn't do it. So God bless you. Really, honestly, God bless you. And God bless Billy for being honest with me and telling me what I did straight to my face, not behind my back, not on Facebook, straight to my face. And continue to love me the best you can. So cheers.